Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here, mediocre astrologer. Man, he's okay. What's up, everyone? I hope you're doing better than okay today. And in this video, I want to do a talk about what is astrology? How does it work? Right? Um, and so this is a complicated talk because this is very out there stuff, and it's not something that we can definitively say what it is, how it works, because nobody can really come to that conclusion. Why? Partially because of the nature of astrology. Astrology is Uranian, meaning it's beyond Saturn. And Saturn is very scientific. So if you're taking a scientific approach to astrology, you're going to miss the boat. You're going to miss the gist of it. You can come to some conclusions with Saturnian logic and thinking and science. But if you're of the mindset where Saturnian scientific hard thinking is sort of the limit of reality, then you're not going to come to the conclusion that astrology is relevant or meaningful or real at all. You're just going to think it's nonsense. However, if you are able to tap into the Uranian way of understanding things, which is outside the realm of Saturn, then you can start to understand things. But even Neptune and Pluto have play a role in it, of course, obviously, right? So we need to expand the mind, in other words, just as a big or broad overview of astrology. In order to understand astrology, we need to be beyond Saturn, and we need to use beyond Saturnian type of mindset. And that's one of the drawbacks that I notice some people when they try to legitimize astrology is they revert to sort of the status quo, which is Saturnian type of thinking, right? They're like, well, let's be very logical and scientific about it, blah blah blah, and they're like, they're trying to copy society, which is very Saturnian, right? Society reverts to the Saturnian mindset, which is science is like the bottom line, the hard, everything has to be either proven or disproven through scientific method, and if it can't be, then it's not real. But that's Saturn, right? And it's legitimate for Saturnian things. Astrology is not Saturnian. Astrology is beyond Saturn, right? And so that's one of the wonderful things about astrology is that it goes beyond Saturn. It goes beyond the earthly status quo logical conclusions that we can draw. All right. So that being said, put on your Uranian, hats for this talk, which you should be wearing anyway with astrology or my any of my videos, right? So the first point I want to talk about is like, okay, where do we get the 12 signs from, the 12 houses and the 12 signs? This is not a human fabrication, right? And my point here with this part at least is that this is not something that humans just invented and attached to astrology, right? It's something that's very natural, the hexagon shape. And to illustrate that, I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna look at a few things. All right, so here I just did a quick search for hexagon in nature. Um, and here you can see, so bubbles. Bubbles are naturally like when you blow a bubble, it's a circle, right? But when you blow a bunch of bubbles together, they start to form hexagons, right? Hexagonal shapes. One, two, three, four, five, six. One, two, three, four, five, six, right? So that's six flat sides and six corners make 12, right? So you get the even and the odd, the dual-sided nature of the 12 signs in the 12 houses, right? The yin and yang or male, female, or as I like to call them, the light and dark half, right? Like the air and fire signs are light, the water and earth signs are dark, right? We also see that with snowflakes, they're often hexagonal. Um, Honeycombs that the bees make are hexagons. The patterns on a turtle shell, hexagons. The um, the center of Saturn is a hexagon, right? On the pole, the North Pole. Why is that? Because it's nature. It's not there's nothing man-made about this. This is 100% nature. You can do this. If you get a bundle of straws, I wish I had a bundle of straws. You put them together, squeeze, you put some pressure on them, they're gonna look like a honeycomb. They're gonna look like the bubbles. They're going to form hexagons, right? Because so what a hexagon is in nature is a circle that has pressure on all sides. It becomes hexagonal. So I'll repeat that. A circle, when it's pressurized on all sides inward, becomes hexagonal in shape. That's just the natural, that's what it resorts to, right? You can argue all you want. It doesn't matter. That's what nature says is going to happen, right? And we see this again and again everywhere throughout nature, hexagonal shapes, right? Let me just pull up this. So, this one article. Um, is it this one? I almost lost it. Hmm, let me see here. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. You kind of get the gist of it. It's going um hexagons in nature. Yeah. Um, so yeah, honeycombs, bubble water soap. Um, like in insects and dragonflies, the eyes are the little they have many little eyes and they're all hexagonal shape. Snowflakes often are resort to hexagons. Saturn, the center of Saturn is hexagonal. Um, Graphite carbon structure, benzene, turtle shells, uh, soccer balls, nuts and bolts, telescope. So many other things. We find them again and again and again. Main thing is this here. Okay, so how does that relate to astrology? Well, so we see it in Saturn, but this is true of all the planets, right? That in the center around the pole, you're going to get a hexagonal nature because the center being the planet being circular, the center being under pressure creates this hexagonal shape, right? Like I said, get a bunch of straws together, like the drinking straws, they're circular, squeeze them, you're going to get hexagons. So the hexagon is a natural result of the circular nature of planets being under pressure in the center, resorts to a hexagonal nature, hexagonal shape, right? And so if we see the hexagon emanating from the center, we can draw lines. Pretend this is the Earth, because this is the same thing on the Earth. The Earth has this as well. All the planets will have this essential nature, this essential shape. We draw lines, right? The divisions. Um, and we from there we can get, well, we're only getting 6 points, but then we can get 12 divisions out of that, if we take, the portion of the equally divide the portions up into, the constituent parts, right? The corners and the flats, each having its own section, and then we get the 12-sided zodiac. Okay. So So if you can imagine that that's coming from the center of the Earth around the poles, from the way the Earth is oriented, and then because the Earth is rotating around the sun, right? Then we get the different positions equally all year. That's the basis for the tropical zodiac, right? We're not basing it on the stars. It's actually coming from the center of the Earth. And this actually, I have to give credit to Gemini Brett for promoting this theory, which makes a lot of sense as far as for the validity of the tropical zodiac. And we know the tropical zodiac makes sense. I mean, it's just like abundantly obvious as far as like its influence on personalities and events and everything else. Um, Personally, it makes a lot more sense than the sidereal, which doesn't really make much sense when you start to dig a little deeper. Um, no offense to Vedic astrologers, but the tropical zodiac definitely makes a lot more sense. Anyway, so this is the basis for the signs, right? And also the division of the houses. Now, that's not going into the nature of each individual um, sign and house. That has to do with their order and the number, which I've covered in other videos. It's not and here's the thing. The houses and the signs, according to me and others, um, derive their meaning from the uh same natural order, right? Aries is Aries because it's number one. And Aries is not like just like it's not just like a compartmentalized association with Aries that it has to be first. It's integral in that it's number one. It's the first sign, first house, uh, and it has to be first. I mean, that's a huge part of Aries, right? But that's a whole nother topic. We're not going to get in, but they each sign and house gets its nature from its order and its relationship to the whole, right? So that's important to understand. So that's the signs in the houses. The next thing is that the planets are hugely impactful in astrology, right? And what are they? In fact, I mean, they're the heart of astrology. I mean, well, you could, I mean, it's so different. Of course, these are the two aspects, the planets and the signs and houses, right? The three aspects. So I don't want to make it, they are what they are. The planets are physical, they have gravity, right? So what are the planets and why do we care? Like, uh, so and this is difficult to explain essentially, but the planets in my cosmology are very evolved souls. I, I mean, some people might balk at that idea, but if we look at like life as a whole, then we see this sort of evolution going on, right? From the smallest single cell organisms, through all of it, plants and animals and worms and frogs and dogs and bats and bees and monkeys, all the way up to humans, right? But it doesn't end with humans. Like there is an evolution to humans where we reach a culmination of humanity, right? And we call that, sages, saints, Buddhas, Christ, enlightened beings, enlightened masters, right? Um, and so beyond that, then we have a further evolution where um, these planets are actually souls. They're ascended masters who've already mastered humanity, right? And then they're taking on a different role in the universe, the spiritual infrastructure of our solar system and whatnot. Um, one Here's an interesting anecdote. Whether it's true or not, I have no idea. But I've heard it connected that some say that the whole idea of Christ was that in reality he was the soul of the Son, right? So we call him the Son of God. So and therefore like the Christ is like the soul of soul because the Son is soul. So he's like the soul or the Son of God, the Son, the actual Son of God, right? The Son of our solar system, right? So there's that parallel, right? That the Christ consciousness or the Christ incarnate in Earth was the spirit of the soul. But anyway, we can translate that to say that like okay, like all the planets have their own souls, right? They are beings. Like just like I'm a being, you're a being. The planets and the sun, they are also beings. They are souls. They are consciousness. They're alive. Okay, so that's a part of it. And the reason that's a part of it is because of the role that they play. They don't just sit there and do nothing or just rotate and blah blah blah, whatever, you know. They have a role in the whole spiritual infrastructure of the solar system, and their role is holding karmas for humanity, right? Some people like to say like, oh, the nodes are very karmic and Saturn's very karmic. The truth is, all the planets are karmic. They just hold different kinds of karma, right? So it's whenever someone's like, oh, it's very karmic, right? I'm just like, it's so vague as to mean nothing. It's like everything's karmic. Everything is karmic. You're not just like sometimes you're receiving your karma and other times you're not. You're always receiving it's all karma. Like life is karma. It's just, different kinds of karma. And some karma is very mundane. You might have a very mundane karma where your karma is just to do the same, like get up, go to work, and like kiss your wife when you get home and eat dinner and go to bed and do that for like, 20 years. and then something major happens, maybe, there's all kinds of karma. It's not just like uh you know soulmates and like tragic accidents, and that's a karma too. Winning the lottery, that's a karma. Being bored, that's also a karma. It's like it's all karma, right? It's all karma. You're not gonna get away without karma, and you don't want to create karma. But anyway, that's a different discussion. You don't want to create negative karma anyway. But so they hold karmas, and these karmas are released at different times. We can see this by the astrological, transits, different phases, time lords, techniques, um, progressions and uh, perfections, and all the various solar returns, all these things, eclipses. They're going to influence when things are triggered and what kind of karmas we have. And you'll notice that, like in certain transits, it's not like everything bad happens to you constantly. Like with Pluto transits, you can have some major bad, things that can happen in a Pluto transit with squares or conjunctions or inconjuncts to or to certain planets or signs and uh angles on the chart. But it's not like Pluto moves so slow. It's not going to always happen, right? Like when Pluto was in my first house, some bad shit happened. Like, I so I cut my knee down to the bone, right? Like really badly. I broke both arms in three places, and my brother was hit by a train and killed. Right, that all happened within a few-year period when Pluto was in my first house, over my Uranus, squaring my Saturn and Mars in the 10th, right? So cuts and broken bones and accidents, right? Um, but it wasn't like constant. It wasn't like every day something horrible was happening. It was like something bad happens and then nothing happens for a while. Then something bad happens, then nothing happens for a while. And then eventually all that karma is exhausted and it doesn't matter. Pluto could keep going back and forth. Nothing much is going to happen because there's no more karma there. That karma was exhausted. So Pluto was connecting with Uranus, Mars, Saturn in a particular aspect and my ascendant to release these karmas that they were my karma. It was my karma. It's just that they were holding it and it was sort of, um, you know, predestined, you could say, to happen at that time because my soul and my spirit guides had planned my life before I was born. Um, um, and they were aware of all these things, and they were like, okay, well, this is gonna, we'll attach these karmas to this, and this, it can happen at this time, and blah blah. They're mapping it all out, right? Because they're aware of this, obviously, and so yeah, so the planets hold our karmas, and they're going to release our karmas at different times in our life. Um, and good karmas too. We have going blurry here. Come on. Okay, well, I'm blurry. There we go. Good karmas too. Like, you meet the love of your life, you get married, you have kids, whatever. You win the lottery, you become a millionaire, or you become broke, or whatever. All different kinds of karma that we can have that the planets are holding for us that are happening at different times. And so, like, yeah, I mean, with that in mind, you don't have to worry too much about like different transits because you're only going to get what you deserve, right? You're only going to get your karma. And knowing about karma is wonderful because then you're just like, you get out of the mind, you get out of the victim mindset. You're just like, yeah, everything's karmic. Everybody gets what they deserve. It's not really about fairness or not fairness. We all get our karma. So that's the planets. All the planets hold different karmas, right? Different nature of karma. Pluto will hold very plutonic karma, like very heavy, deep karma, right? Uranus will hold Uranian karma. Neptune will hold Neptunian karma. Saturn will hold Saturnian karma, right? And this is not like a comprehensive, exhaustive, listing of all the planetary influences. It's a very big picture, right? So, not I'm not getting narrowing down on the details obviously here, but so the third point about how astrology works uh is And obviously, like when I say astrology work, how astrology works, I'm not really getting into any of the real, like again, nitty-gritty specific details. Like I'm just saying karma, it's like pretty vague, I guess. But to me, it makes a lot of sense and covers a lot of ground. I mean, you have to study, you have to have a good understanding of karma, I guess. But yeah, spiritual influences and whatnot. Um, anyway, the third aspect of astrology is that we have these mythologies that we attach to the planets, and we sort of attach meaning to the planets because of that. And this is in contrast to what I call the hardware, like the hard aspects of the planets. Like, the sun is big and bright and fiery, and it's a star, and it's like, that has, absolute significance, right? Um, Mercury being the first planet from the sun, super quick, and we can draw all these conclusions just about that. Never mind the mythology, right? We can draw a lot, we can get a lot of information and garner a lot of details about how they influence us just by the nature of their hard aspects, the physical aspects of these planets, right? Uranus has an unusual orbit. It spins vertically in orientation to the sun, right? Um, so we can get a lot from that. All of them. But then we have the mythology, and how does that play into it? Well, my theory is that and people obviously are going to think all the kinds of thoughts about this, including agreeing and disagreeing and somewhere in between. But there's a couple possibilities. Number one, the planets are in communication with humanity, which I believe they are intuitively, right? And or like they connect with humanity on a deep instinctual intuitive level, right? So one notion is that they themselves are providing the you need a new camera, I think. um they're themselves providing the spirit of the mythology, right? And so, like, like the idea of Hermes, like maybe the spirit of the story of Hermes actually came from Mercury, right? Maybe he was communicating. The soul of Mercury and of various planets were connecting to humanity and giving them their mythologies. And then over time, so the mythologies came first, and then they discover Mercury, and they're like, oh, this is like the mythology of, let's put these two together because it makes sense. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is that it just kind of it was an organic fit, right? Sorry. um that the mythologies came first, and then they're just like, attaching it to the planets, and it was just like a fit, like, okay, like you make a shoe and it fits, right? And so you wear that shoe. It's not necessarily that the shoe grew around your foot, but it happened to be a good match, right? And so, like my parents named me Joe. I got used to it. I didn't pick that name, but I go around saying my name is Joe, and I built an identity around my name being Joe. In a similar way, like we create these mythologies and we say, okay, that belongs to you, Mercury, that belongs to you, Sun, that belongs to you, Jupiter, so forth, and so on. And the planets, actually being conscious beings, are like, okay, you guys named me, you guys gave me this story, I'm going to use it because why not? I didn't have a story otherwise, right? Obviously, different cultures would have different mythologies that they attach to the planets as well, and so there could be some nuance there about that. And planets, being very evolved beings, could be like, um, okay, I'm just gonna, go along with it, like, and I'm so and so to you guys, and I'm gonna reflect this mythology, and I'm so and so to you guys, and I'm gonna reflect this mythology. Um, the other way that it could possibly uh work is the psychic umbrella effect, where when a lot of people believe something, then the psychic nature of that actually influences the masses, right? Um, and this is kind of one of those belief systems, not even belief system, it's actually like a practice. I think the deep occultists actually do that. They make all they coordinate a paradigm or a message or a story, um, from the deepest levels of society, and they get everyone to reflect that, including the media and all the big authorities. Then all of a sudden, everyone's believing it, and through that, they're creating it, right? That's not beyond them. I know some people think it's all organic happening, just realities, but it's not so. There are people pulling the strings, pulling the levers behind the scenes. They are creating it. This is how they're creating it. Psychic umbrella effect, where that's what I'm calling it, psychic umbrella, where you get enough people believing something, it actually creates that thing, right? And so that's real. Um, and so in the same way, when enough people believe a mythology and they're attaching it to like the planets or whatnot, that is creating a real psychic phenomenon that even if you don't believe that, there's still going to be influence on you because we're psychic beings, right? And it's just like if you take like, you know, uh one little battery, it's not gonna have much power, but you put like 1,000, a million, like 10 million, a billion batteries together, you got freaking like shitloads of power, when you do that. So like if one person believing something is no big deal. Like, however, we do know that one person believing something about themselves is powerful enough to influence their own life. But you get a million people, 10 million people, 100 million people, a billion people believing something. That's extraordinarily powerful. Like, you really have to understand that the collective belief system is going to uh, create, it's going to have the power to create something from nothing. It really is. Right. And that's why the masses are so powerful in whatever they believe in. Right. And you can get like crazy mobs believing in all sorts of horrible things. And that's not necessarily a good thing because they're sheep, they're easily led. And this is the magic of the Illuminati, you could say, like the people pulling the levers behind the scenes. They just get the media to repeat a story, and all of a sudden the sheep are believing it, and they're creating it too. This is a real thing, and it's a real problem because people are dumb and they just believe stupid shit. But astrology works in the same way. And it's not purely this. It's not purely one thing or the other. It's complex. It's multifaceted, right? But the umbrella, psychic umbrella effect is a thing. And it's like if you go to India, Vedic astrology is going to work better there because everyone's believing in it. It just is. But if you come here to the West, um, you should practice Western astrology. It's going to work better because of the psychic umbrella effect, right? And for other reasons as well. I mean, like I said, so tropical astrology is just more relevant to living on the earth. It is. I mean, who gives a shit about like like not who gives a shit, but it's just like something's a lot more fundamental about this, planet and the seasons traveling around the sun than stars that are like billions of years away, right? Billions of light years. I mean, there's the influence is way, way less. It's not coordinated to the astrology is not about the star shapes, the what are they called? Constellations. I mean, they have an influence, but that's not the basis of astrology. Come on. We got something way more fundamental. Look down at your feet. That's where astrology begins, right? It's way more fundamental, way more personal than billions of light years away. Give me a break. Come on. We're better than that. We're smarter than that. We don't need to base anyway, it's the tangent, but um, so yeah, those are the components of astrology as far as I have um come to agree upon, come to realize, come to understand. People have different theories, and nobody has like the definitive answer because there is no way to um define it. I mean, let the chips fall where they may. Like, let the best, astrologers, have their say, I guess. I don't know. Whatever happens, happens. I mean, there's no way to say what the right answer is to this or not. Um, so that is pretty much the way I see it. Just to recap, we have the hexagon that is emanating from the earth, and from there we can hexagon is 6, but we can derive 12 signs from that, being the flat and the angular parts of the hexagon, right? Um, then we have the planets as souls, the planets as actual beings, right? They are real. They can communicate with us. In the past, they would have called them gods. We don't have to call them gods anymore. We can call them what they are, which are planets who have souls. And the sun is not a planet, it's a star. But it also has a soul. And it could be that could be the soul of Christ. I don't know for a fact that it is or that it isn't, but it could be, right? And I don't believe that he's the only son of God. We're all the son of God, but he was a very evolved, highly evolved, and he could be our solar, system son, right? Maybe. Who knows? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. He could be the son of God, right? The star of God. Anyway, um, yeah, so the planets are living beings. They're living souls. They're not human beings. They're planet beings, right? Or star beings in the case of the sun. And they're holding our karmas, right? They hold our karmas that get released at different points in time. Um, and the mythologies are related to the psychic umbrella effect, right? And the communication with the planets. I mean, in a sense, you could say an astrologer is like a medium between the planets and humanity, right? Because an astrologer is connecting with the planets, whether they know it or not. They're interpreting the movement of the planets and the karmas when they're going to get released, what kind of karmas, the nature, and all the other influences, right? The influence of the personality of the person, the psychology, the mundane effects on humanity, its influences, even weather patterns, right, are influenced by planetary movements. That's a real thing. Yeah. So yeah, those are the three um, parts of astrology that I can delineate right now. So that's that. Um, okay, well, um, that's all I got for now. So I hope you found this interesting and educational and entertaining. I'm Joe Waxman, the mediocre astrologer, signing off. Meh, I'm okay. Um, guys, laugh it off. Win before you win. Take a victory laugh for me. Uh, yeah, hope you're doing well. I will see you again soon. Leave a comment down below. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Do all the things. Book a reading with me. And yeah, have a good time. I will see you again soon. All right, bye.